Let's talk about physical self-defense, okay, and some of the options that we have. So in a recent video, I talked a little bit about the mindset of personal protection and how a lot of people start into traditional martial arts to start learning to defend themselves. Which honestly, I wish more people would do that. And anymore today, most people walk into, they look for these, 1 or 2 hour quickie self-defense courses, and those don't work. They just don't work. And the reason they don't work is because you cannot develop any self-defense skills that are lasting and effective in 2 hours. You can't. Just don't even buy into this fast food mentality of self-defense. It just doesn't work. You have to build habits, and you have to build skill level to be able to institute these tactics, right? It's just like going and taking a basic concealed carry class, standing in a stall at the range where you pick the gun off the bench and you shoot at a target, from 10, 15 feet away, and you think you're prepared to use that gun in self-defense, and you're not. You're not. It may make you feel good having it on you, but that's not true self-defense. That's marksmanship. Empty hand self-defense is no different. You need to be able to train these techniques, develop the mindset, develop the focus, develop the skills to be able to implement those techniques empty hand, especially empty hand techniques. Okay, especially empty hand techniques. And I'm not saying that from a short time martial artist that's been doing it 5-6 years. I'm talking to you from a martial artist that's been doing it his whole life, essentially. So, November this year, I'm filming this in October of 2021, November will start my 38th year in the martial arts. So I'm saying this from a vast amount of experience. A good pepper spray or OC spray is, I think, something that everybody ought to carry. A lot of times people will carry it, though. Women carry it because people say, well, hey, this is probably a good idea for you to carry, and I think it is. However, they throw it in their purse and it's not really accessible. So number one, with OC spray, you really need to be able to access that can of OC spray. You need to understand how to use it effectively. It's not just a short little burst in one little spot in the face. You need to cover the whole face. So, either drawing the sign of the cross on their face, or going back and forth from the top of their forehead or the crown of their head and all the way down to their chin. So you cover their eyes and their nose and their mouth with the stuff, is your best chance of it working. So, a 1.5, 2 second burst of OC is a good idea. However, what most people don't realize is there's factors with using OC spray. So the wind can affect it, and it can blow it back on you. So you really need to understand that you're probably going to get a taste of that stuff too, and you need to be able to fight through it, because it really does suck getting hit with it. When we look at using weapons, a lot of people don't carry a weapon with them, or they're in a non-permissive environment, so they can't carry a firearm. Or in some cases, businesses are putting up signs saying no firearms or knives, and you can't carry a knife either, which is really unfortunate, because a good pocket knife that's just an everyday tool for opening boxes can be implemented as a improvised weapon of self-defense, though a blade is a weapon regardless. But what do we have around us? Do we have magazines? And I know that so many print magazines are going digital now, so we're not seeing as many print magazines. Newspapers are almost non-existent anymore, and when we do see them, they're very, very thin. So a one-time chance of using a good rolled up newspaper that I used to be able to break 1-inch boards with, now they're so thin that it really wouldn't do a whole lot. It'd cause a lot of paper cuts and it might hurt a little bit, but it's not going to cause enough blunt force trauma to actually do serious damage. But what about a chair or a purse or a backpack? If we're in a store, hangers, things like that. Anything that we can use as a weapon to throw at the person, to hit them with, it's great. But it comes back to being aware of what's in the environment we're in and what's around us, and looking at things, everyday things, in a way that maybe most people don't, and using them as a self-defense tool. Carrying a firearm. I wish everybody that is legally allowed to would carry a firearm, but I'm a realist and I understand that there's people that are not necessarily against them, but they're afraid enough of them that they won't carry them. There are people who are 100% against firearms, and they won't carry them. So the realistic element of people actually carrying a firearm on a daily basis is not as great as I wish it was, because I really believe an armed society is a polite society. But if you're going to learn to use OC spray or empty hand skills or your firearm, training is essential. I'm not talking about one-day class. I'm not talking about a couple-hour class. I mean continuing education, just like you would do in your job. You need to continue to train. You need to continue to learn. You need to continue to hone your skills so that these tools and these skills are effective when you need them the most. You need to understand when it's time to fight and when it's time to walk away. You think about Kenny Rogers, the gambler, right? You really got to be able to recognize that, yes, it's time to go now, or no, it's time to leave. And if you choose to fight, if that's the option that you have, or that's the option you choose, you need to be confident in your skills, and you need to understand that you're taking a very high risk, and it may be your only chance of survival. So if you choose to fight, you fight with everything you've got, as if your life depended on it, because it might. Okay, and so if you go full bore. Now, understand that if you get into an altercation, whether it's empty hand, using an OC, or using a firearm, it doesn't matter. You got to understand that there's legal risks that you could be facing. Okay, you could be charged with assault, felonious assault, aggravated assault, involuntary manslaughter if you use your firearm. You got to understand that there are legal risks involved in protecting yourself. Because the unfortunate thing is, just because you understand what happened doesn't mean that everybody's going to understand what happens. And so whatever actions you take, you need to be able to articulate very clearly what you did, why you did it, what led up to it, and what not, what happened afterwards, so that there's a clear picture, and understand that we live in a society that we are always on camera, whether it's security cameras, home security cameras like Ring or SimpliSafe, or there's just people, innocent bystanders that just seem to have to whip out their phone and film the incident on their phone. So you need to be aware of those things too, that those will all come into play. So with that said, consider these things, understand where we're coming from with personal protection and what that actually means. We look forward to seeing you in class. In the meantime, stay safe, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.